So, welcome everyone to another edition of Talks with Sato, the weekly Twitter X Spaces / podcast that we host in collaboration with the Money on Chain community, in which we tackle every week. We interview and have people come to share their perspective on Bitcoin, what they are building, and how they are pushing the space forward. Today, we're going to have a very interesting conversation with James Otudor, who is a pro Bitcoin politician in Nigeria, and he's also involved with other Bitcoin ventures. James, thank you so much for making the time to be here and speaking with us. I will start by saying that I know very little of what's happening politically in Nigeria, but I am very much looking forward to learn from your perspective on the ground and on the front lines. I'll give you some time to say hi to everyone, and perhaps we can start by you giving us a little background story about yourself.
All right, Money and Chin, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak. Once again, I'm James Otudor. Shout out to Art of Thomas. Shout out to Manu Vega. Shout out to your Bitcoin and independent, every other person that would join and would listen to space after this. Yeah, my background, I like being very brief about my background and one thing I like about this space is that Bitcoin has given opportunity to everybody, regardless of your background, to have an opportunity to strike out, to have an opportunity to have a level playing field with the rest of the world. It might sound interesting, but for you guys, but for me, it's a whole lot of achievement actually, because the fact that you can actually come out from a background of how do I put this in a very modest way? Would I say background of a family background of people living below the poverty of being around a lot of uneducated in quotes and all of that and having the center stage to speak where people of great minds are. It's actually a very interesting one. It's a great thing actually for me. So my background, I am a Bitcoin politician, although I am an ICT expert by profession and also a new media expert. So yeah, I help do marketing for companies. Before I got into Bitcoin, also I had a small startup and all of that. But as we go further, we'll see how interesting it is to be in Bitcoin, be an opposition, contest for election as an opposition and run a business. And we'll get to see how that's all interrelated and how they affected each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. That was a very eloquent introduction. And I agree 100% with you. One of the things that I love most about Bitcoin is that it puts us all in a level playing field. And we are all, even from different sides of the world and different economic situations, we can all contribute towards the same thing that helps us all. So yeah, I am wondering, like, how do you see Bitcoin affecting like you said, you started with a small startup and you're a new media expert. So how did Bitcoin change the way in which you were conducting your businesses? And like, help me understand your journey into adopting Bitcoin, so much so that you became a politician. You're taking the political route and you're taking a pro Bitcoin stance. Help people understand why you made that choice.
Okay. When I started out as around high school, when I just got out of high school, I got so much interested in ICT, jumping here and there. I can still remember my first laptop. It's very interesting, actually. Yeah. And so while pushing in ICT, would I say career? Would I say interest? Would I say a hobby? It got across the dark web. Back then, I'm talking about 2009, 2010, 2011, 12, 13, down thereabouts. So I got into the dark web. I was searching on the dark web, playing around on the dark web. And that was where I first got in contact with Bitcoin. Back then, Silk Road and all of that, and all those marketplaces. And it was interesting, actually. But the truth was that it didn't get to stick because I didn't get to understand. And I know we're like, we're clique of about two or three that were so interested in ICT. And it didn't get to click to us. Look, and as at then, we could afford to buy as many BTCs as we wanted. It didn't come into our head because there was lack of education, lack of research, and all of that. Going further, I graduated from the dark web and knowing Bitcoin on the dark web into trying to mine. And back then, we used to have what we call a cyber cafe where you could go in either with your laptop or go and use an existing laptop or existing computer, to access the internet. So there were all these faucets where you could complete some tasks and earn some coin. Back then, we were in quotes mining BTC. It was pretty easy. It was pretty easy. And I can't forget, like I remember, I knew I had about 6, 7 BTC, Bitcoin, just by playing around in less than, I think, a year or so. And after then, still, it didn't still click, you know? After then, it was looking like, what am I actually doing? And that phase passed out. I tried to get serious with my life. What about Bitcoin? And we now pushed forward to 2017. That was when the whole crypto industry and everything like came on me, and I was like, wow, I had 6 BTCs. That was when I was now running helter skelter to see how I could get onto those projects and claim, and they were all lost. That was a sad story. And another sad story was what actually got me into Bitcoin full time was FTX. Going further, I started understanding, studying the crypto market and all of that, how to do shit coins and all of that. And I got addicted. And yeah, I was into little shit coins. And yeah, shit coin made me some loads of money as a young man, as a then. And in fact, to be precise, FCT made me some loads of money. Precise, actually. And I was getting to understand the crypto industry in quotes. And unfortunately, FTX went down, FTT went down to nothing, and I lost all of that. And that was when my interest got so deep into Bitcoin. And I decided to research. I to really now understood. I before then I only understood Bitcoin as more as a means of a currency where we can trade, do some trading and make some cool money and all of that. And I was actually touching it because back then again, I believe that you had to have a lot of money to actually get into Bitcoin. So it was after FCX went down and I lost in equity, lost some cool money in equity. And that was there about during the elections, which was last year when I was attending the elections out in last year. But my interest really now got down and I started restudying and re-understanding or trying to understand the whole concept around Bitcoin and the whole value system and the everything, the eccentric nature of Bitcoin itself as money and not just as a tool to trade and all of that. Yeah, so that was how I came into Bitcoin. Luckily, the story still gets interesting. And when I lost money due to the crash of FTX and FCT, I started growing interest in Bitcoin. There was a Bitcoin meetup, a Bitcoin only conference that was, I think, some miles, a lot of miles, some miles though, a lot of miles, a 3 hour ride from my city to the next city. And I got my friend, hopped on the next bus, and off I was to the Bitcoin conference. And that was where I got into the Bitcoin space fully. And from there, I joined Pussy Journal, where, I got to learn, got to meet a lot of people that were Bitcoin magazines, and I got to learn a lot and understand the whole idea. Yeah, I know that we're still understanding the whole idea around Bitcoin. New developments are coming up and we still have a lot to learn. But yeah, that was what grounded my knowledge in Bitcoin itself and the whole eccentrics around Bitcoin. And ever since then, I've not looked back. I've been trying to spread the message, stay away from shitcoin, stay true to Bitcoin and all of that. That's just in a nutshell of my background on Bitcoin and getting into it. Now, in the politics arena, okay, for business, I used to run my last years, I used to run an ICT center for young adults, especially adults that just left high school, where we equipped them with basic ICT skills that would help them get jobs around the back. And I discovered that, yeah, although the government were interested in pushing ICT, but it was more of a lip service. I ran a business I saw the business as being a very important business. Imagine running a business for 2 years without power. Like I had to generate my own power and all of that. So that was actually also what formed my idea into trying to get into politics, to try to change some things. And when I got in contact with Bitcoin, I saw that I could actually use Bitcoin as a tool to change a lot of things. There were a lot of solutions that Bitcoin provide, a lot of answers that Bitcoin provide to power that got me to shut down my business to, education, to a lot of things. So that was what actually got me to full Bitcoin politics and supporting Bitcoin adoption in Nigeria and in my locality. Thank you very much, guys.
Wow, thank you for that thorough answer. It seems like you had quite a journey. Usually, that this is the part of the spaces that I enjoy the most every time I host it, learning how our guests got into Bitcoin. And there's always a lot of similarities with all these different stories from different people in different parts of the world. But yeah, it seems that everyone has to go through that phase of exploring the altcoin space, getting burned through them. And yeah, I think it takes a lot longer to understand Bitcoin than the other altcoins. So it makes sense that people often need to go through them, and only after experiencing the burn, they then you can go into Bitcoin and really understand it and grapple it, because Bitcoin is such a complicated thing that it really requires a lot of time and careful study to fully understand. And it seems that once people understand it, a lot of them, like yourself and I include myself as well, we just go all in Bitcoin, and that becomes our thing. So it is very interesting that you are combining both Bitcoin and politics. I think in the Bitcoin space, a lot of people don't see how they can go together, and they see them as opposing forces. And but personally, I believe that we need pro Bitcoin politicians to help move the space forward, even though I believe in a bottom up approach rather than a top down. I still believe that having the presence of Bitcoiners in the political process is quite important. So I want to know your thoughts about this, about combining Bitcoin with politics.
When you say bottom to top approach, I think politics also, when you look at politics, is the easiest route to get the bottom to top approach. For me, I also believe politics is the easiest route to having a mass adoption, especially in the global south, especially in Africa, especially in Nigeria, especially because this is how it works. Now, around the politician and average politician, you always see a lot of people, especially the politicians in power. So if I were to be in power, I would directly be influencing the lives of thousands, if not millions of people. What is the easiest way than to be a pro Bitcoin politician? So if I'm a pro Bitcoin politician and my followers see what I'm doing in the Bitcoin space, what I'm using Bitcoin to do, and I'm also preaching the adoption message, the work get easier. And we live in a fair, where everybody respects the politician, everybody reverence the politician, everybody wants to be in the good books, the good chapter of the politician. So I walk into a place and I tell you guys, hey guys, look at Bitcoin, and I could easily preach the message rather than the other way out. Now, when it comes to the bottom to top approach, I am not contesting for the highest office in government. I'm starting from the least, closest to the people. And that was the position I ran for, position of the House of Assembly in my local government constituency. Being a grassroots man, as we call it, and being down to earth, as a pro Bitcoin politician, imagine starting out from there. Let's say I got to win the election, starting out from there, moving to the next to the state levels, moving to the federal level, and all of that. It becomes an easier way to spread tentacles, to also spread the message. That's it for me. So I feel that the easiest way to actually spread adoption is through politics. Now, it will be easier for, we have had so much anti-Bitcoin policies and all of that. And I feel if we had pro-Bitcoin politicians, we will not be having to grapple with anti-Bitcoin policies. That's number one. Number two, we will not have to be having shitcoin policies that come out. A lot of governments think they are doing the populace, their community or their constituencies good by allowing shitcoin to take the order of the day. But as a pro-Bitcoin politician, it would be in my duty to make sure the government gets it right, at least at the first trial. We are still early. In Africa, the concept of governance is because we are still up to develop and find our own route towards having a good a method of governance, so that works for everybody. So if as an African politician, I understand this, as a pro-Bitcoin politician, I understand this, it makes the job easier. I know a lot of Bitcoin margins are anti-government, and fuck the government, sorry for the F word, and all of that. But yeah, I keep telling them that as far as there are boundaries, as far as they exist, government will exist. The best way we can actually get this done is to infiltrate these governments, to get in there, get the pro Bitcoin guys in there. It makes the work easier. Take El Salvador as an example. Getting a president that is pro Bitcoin made the work easier. If they didn't have a pro Bitcoin president, I'm not sure El Salvador would even become use Bitcoin as beyond the Bitcoin standard and all of that. It will make the adoption much, much difficult. But having a pro Bitcoin president automatically made it easier. So that was the inspiring concept behind me getting into Bitcoin getting into politics as a Bitcoiner. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Jens, what you said resonates a lot with me. I think in the Bitcoin space, we need to start getting um, a bit more sophisticated with our ideas and our understanding and our tactics on how we get Bitcoin into the hands of people. And this anti government narrative that is very popular, especially within the first core Bitcoin community, which is mostly like libertarian people, which like I understand that vision and I like the libertarian mindset. But as you say, I still believe there is a role for government because government in its essence is just a way of trying to help large amount of people coordinate. And that, whether we call it government or we call it something else, or maybe we can say that the way it's set up, maybe it's not the best, but we will always need a way of coordinating humans, especially since we are so many. And having people that understand Bitcoin in those places where the decisions of how these systems are run, I think is extremely important. And I think we are at the stage in the Bitcoin adoption curve that we really need people like you to start taking this into those areas. So I just want to ask quickly, do you experience some pushback from the Bitcoin community when you start talking about bringing Bitcoin into politics?
Actually, as in Nigeria, we've had as an African, as a Nigerian, black man, we've had lots of pushback. I've been on a space where Cordon brothers were, and I happened to also speak. And it was crazy what I experienced, the racism and all of that. Now, when it comes to initially when I started out, when it comes to having pushback from Bitcoin minds, yes, I had a lot of them. But I got to understand that look, you have to stand your ground. We're all finding, even the Bitcoin OGs, we're all finding, our that we are still very early in this thing, man. So I cannot go and so I'm so grateful for Jeremy Gracia. He was actually the founder of Satoshi Journal. He was always encouraging me. Look, James, your opinion does not have to sit down well with everybody, but keep believing in what you believe in and keep pushing. And that's what I kept doing. And I think recently more people have beginning to understand that we need pro Bitcoin politicians actually. We have people in government that believe Bitcoin, people in government that are working to make it easier for the locals to get access to Bitcoin and get access to whatever form of money they want. And let me give a brief insight. I started a project to save this book. What's the title of that book again? Oh God, just keep my head. Um,
The Bitcoin standard.
yeah, the Bitcoin standard. So I got a project or put it on Giga to get 4 copies of the Bitcoin standard to some Nigerian politicians, especially to the ones that were close to me, which were members of our parliament from my constituency. Because luckily for me, we got all members of the parliament in the state from my constituency. So I got a senator from my constituency. I got the House of Rep member from my constituency. I got the governor from my constituency. So I felt it wise, to start the conversation, get standard to them. And yes, it was widely accepted. It was funded to a level and started it. Do you know that till now, because the concept around Bitcoin doesn't really sit down well with Patricia. Bitcoin is so transparent, Bitcoin is too, and all of that. So the fact that they have to put their finances like it doesn't really resonate with them, and there were lots of blockades in, getting to these guys. And will I say, amazed or whatever, because I couldn't understand why getting to meet people and trying to bring the best form of money, trying to make them understand why they should get on the Bitcoin standard was seeming very difficult. And I believe that if we had more politicians, more pro Bitcoin politicians in my space pushing out for that, not just James, let's say we have 2 or 3 others, and we get ourselves into a coalition or something, I believe that they would have received the message in a more receptive manner. Yeah, that's it for me.
All right. Wow. Okay. So first of all, I also want to do a shout out to Jeremy, the creator of Satoshi's Journal, that you said he helped you when you were getting started. We had him as a guest on our previous spaces. We are very big fans of what he's doing. So if everybody here wants to check out his project, it's called Satoshi's Journal. And it's a very good place for people to start contributing with articles and stuff like that to the Bitcoin space. He's focused mostly on Bitcoin education, which is very important. And I love that you were sharing Sapedian's book, The Bitcoin Standard. I think is one of the probably the best books if you want to tell someone like, here, read this, and at least you will have a clear understanding of why Bitcoin really matters as a monetary technology. So I really like that you did that. That's incredible. And you mentioned that you did it through Geyser. So for our listeners, Geyser is a company that uses the Lightning Network. It functions similar to a Kickstarter, but instead of funding projects with fiat, you do it with sats through the Lightning Network, which is wonderful because you can donate as little as 100 sats, 50 sats, which is almost nothing. But when a lot of people do it, suddenly things like what you are trying to do can get funded, and we can start using that to create real change. Because you used it to grab one of the best Bitcoin book and distribute it to the politicians in Nigeria, which are people that have a lot of power over the entire country. So that by itself, with very little funding, can really start the process of very big changes and very deep impacts. So yeah, I just want our audience to be aware of all this stuff, which I think is wonderful. And to continue the conversation, I would want to ask you, what do you think Bitcoin can do for Nigeria? If you were speaking to people from your own country that maybe are not, they don't understand Bitcoin that well, and they are wondering, why are you so adamant in saying that Bitcoin can truly be a big change and help in your own country?
Yeah, thank you for that. When I ran for elections, I had a manifesto, and I wish I could share it. I wish this was a platform where I could share my screen or something. So I had a manifesto that had Bitcoin incorporated in as part of my manifesto and the solutions Bitcoin could create. And a lot of guys thought I was crazy. Hey, this family is crazy. The guy is crazy. And at the point, I almost got discouraged because when I didn't get discouraged was when I noticed that the message was like really thinking and getting. And as at that time of elections, we had a peculiar challenge in Nigeria. And what was the challenge? The challenge was the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, wanted to change our notes, our naira notes, take out old naira in the system and bring in new naira and limit the supply of the physical notes in a way to bring in the CPDCs, bring in what they call the e-naira. And it actually backfired. It really backfired. We had a situation where people could not do transactions, people could not get access to their money, people could not get the basics of life. Even when they had the credit, the funds, people could not get access to them because the central bank of central bank's policy. And this was where I was able to preach my Bitcoin message. Now there's a service in Africa called Macharan that allows you to send Bitcoin over USSD. A lot of Westerners may not understand why this is very important, but was important because you could send Bitcoin over without using the internet. So you could send Bitcoin using a feature phone. And that was important because the people that I was reaching out to, the people at the bottom of the chain, the farmer, the market woman, the fisherman, and all of them, most of them don't know how to operate the internet, but they can use the feature phones. So yeah, what did I see Bitcoin could do? I told them, first of all, being on the Bitcoin standard, you don't need the CBN to tell you when to use your money, how to use your money. You earned this money. And so you deserve the right to know how and when to spend your money. And that was one of my selling points. Then I also got them to know, look, do you know that the state, the government could actually go into Bitcoin mining and through that get Nigeria doesn't have, in fact, we have one of the most epileptic power supply. As I speak to you, I've not seen power for, I know most of you might not understand, but imagine not having power for the past 12 hours or 14 hours. Just imagine that. And that is what an average Nigerian faces. Sometimes we go 2, 3 days without power. And Bitcoin mining can solve this. So that was in a space where I think somebody asked what were the peculiar challenges of Bitcoin mining in Nigeria. And the answer was, oh, we don't have power. And I see that in a different light because actually a challenge and also, how do I put it? Also a stepping stone because if we can bring up mining, we can also give 24-hour power to the community. So with Bitcoin mining, let's say, and luckily for us in Nigeria, the federal government were willing to decouple. When I decouple, before now, power used to be an exclusive right generation of power and transmission of power, everything that had to do about power was an exclusive right of the federal government. But as it stands that right now with new legislation, anybody could generate power. An individual could generate up to 1 mega and watt of power. So imagine a community like my constituency getting involved in Bitcoin mining. Look, we have an amazing waterfall that we could put a dam over. Gridless has been doing it in Tanzania and I think Kenya. We could put a dam over it, bring some Bitcoin mining machine, incentivize that, generate power, supply to the community, be mining Bitcoin, I'll be making money for In fact, it's an amazing model. And this is possible with all the monies that the state government has been spending on things that for me, I think they didn't really help the constituency go anywhere. This mining solution alone could create solution to our epileptic power and also create wealth. So that was one of it. Then another what I proposed to get on my manifesto was to create what I called and an ICT monotechnic. Now a monotechnic is a tertiary institution that will be focused on one niche of education, which would have been technology. Now, it will be interesting to know that in my constituency where I contested elections, there are no tertiary institutions, and we have over 100,000 people in that local government without a tertiary institution, which was crazy. And now with a monotechnic that is focused on technology, I was proposing on my manifesto, look, if we can get a monotechnic, we get the people, we teach them on blockchain, technology and all of that. We are also going to be helping the educational sector of our constituency. And we are like, people were like, this is crazy. But in Africa and in our elections, the man with the highest funds gets to win the elections, actually. So yeah, those were the few solutions I proposed in my manifesto to use Bitcoin to solve.
Yeah, wow. The energy part, I think it's so incredibly important. I agree that most people just take for granted that if you plug something in, it's gonna work, and if you flip your switch in your house, the light's gonna come on. But I come from Argentina. That's not always the case over there. And for what you explained, in Nigeria, it seems to be much worse. 12 hours without power. For most people in the developed world, that is unthinkable. And it really it puts you in such a disadvantage. If you, especially how the world runs today, everything runs on the internet. You need to be connected at all times. If you don't have power for 12 hours, personally, I would go crazy. And I think this, for a lot of people, it might be counterintuitive that Bitcoin mining can fix the energy problem because they focus so much on Bitcoin mining consumes a lot of power. But they fail to understand that what Bitcoin mining is actually doing is not simply consuming power. It's creating an economic incentive to produce more power. I think if we can get people to understand that, it's going to be a lot easier to get your message across. Yes, I'll continue, please.
Yeah, let me broaden that up. The waterfall I told you about that we could put a dam over, generate at least 1 megawatt of electricity. In Nigeria, with 210 million people, has not generated more than 5,000 megawatts of electricity over the years with 210 million people. Now, the government decided to try something at the waterfall, get it down, and put something over during the dry seasons. And during the rainy season, everything was washed away and nobody came back there. Now, imagine there were Bitcoin mining machines, rather. That would greatly incentivize anybody that wants to put it down there. And at the same time, you'll still be able to sell power to the communities. So it becomes I don't know how, yeah, Bitcoin consumes power in quotes or whatever they say, but that is one of the greatest way to solve, to bring to light a solution to lack of power in a country like ours.
Yeah, no, that makes it very clear that it could do so much good. It's like something so simple, and yet it can be so profoundly, it can affect change in such a positive way. Also, what I think people don't usually understand is that because everything we do requires power, if you if you use Bitcoin to incentivize the production of power, then the cost of electricity of power becomes less, becomes cheaper. And because you need electricity to do anything, then that means that the price of everything drops. And that has a massive impact for everyone, including people in the lowest income in the society. And it just helps to make everything better. So I really think that the approach of going through the Bitcoin mining specifically to fix a specific problem of the production of energy, I think is brilliant. I really hope that people listen to your message in this regard. Now, we're 15 minutes away from the hour. I invite anyone from the audience that wants to ask questions. I know we have some people in the audience from Nigeria. So if you have any questions specifically to what's happening over there, we welcome you, and you can either type it in the chat or you can request a microphone. If before we finish, I would just want to ask you about the iPay BTC app, which I know that you're working with. I also know that you're doing, I think, monthly Bitcoin educational spaces. So I want to touch on those two things, if you want.
Yeah, IPBTC app is a Nigerian focused Bitcoin only wallet service provider. Now, in fact, it's currently the only Bitcoin only service provider because, yeah, we have some Bitcoin focused and they do some other, yeah, they do USDT, USDC, and all of that. But the IPBTC, I think by today or tomorrow, we're going to be announcing that we're not supporting USDT anymore because we used to support USDC and we are focusing on Bitcoin only, whether it's stable Bitcoin or whatever, Bitcoin only. Because we understand that, look, we have to make it easier for our focus is Nigeria for now because we have to get it right first. A charity begins at home, right? So we have to get it right from home before we can bring up the solutions to the broader market. So yeah, IPBTC is a Bitcoin wallet service provider, and I work with them as marketing strategies, community manager, and in other capacity as I could. And IPBTC is also a frontier in Bitcoin education because we understand also that Bitcoin education is very sacrosanct to Bitcoin adoption. That is still the easiest way. So whatever way we want to drive adoption, education is still the easiest way, whether it's through the vehicle of politics, whether it's the vehicle of whatever it is. Education is still the easiest way to drive adoption. So yes, we support a couple of spaces. For now, we run Orange Peel with IPBTC, which is a space like we have it in series where we talk about different issues. I think we'll be looking forward to also having a space on money on chain, get people to understand what money on chain does. Yes, that's what we do when it comes to the educational space. Also, we just started, I am IPPTC, we just started a program for kids in high school, what we call secondary school in Nigeria. Yes, so these are kids between the ages of 9 to 17. The idea was to start a Bitcoin club. We inaugurated the Bitcoin club in two schools. And yes, we are helping the club, funding it and everything too, because we believe that if we could start by orange pilling the younger generation, by orange pilling a much, much younger generation, I think it will be easier to push the adoption messages also because we are having kids that grow up into the knowledge of Bitcoin, into the knowledge of understanding what sound money is. And also, we are having kids who will be enthusiastic in building more Bitcoin solutions. So imagine having kids from the ages of 9, 10, being introduced to Bitcoin. And trust me, in fact, for my first interaction, I got to discover that these kids have already heard about Bitcoin, but they'll be hearing the wrong information about Bitcoin. And so it's high time that we're able to spread the right information about Bitcoin. Yeah, that's what we have been doing. That's what I've been doing with IBB. Yeah, thank you very much, bro.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I love the way you're thinking about it, the way you're approaching it, like targeting the newer generations. I think that's brilliant. I think they will have a much easier time wrapping their minds around it since they were, for them, the internet has always been there. They're most used to a digital life. So I think the concept of a digital currency is much, much easier for them to understand. And you can start to build the base that will, in a few years, they will be the ones entering the voting polls. And hopefully, if they understand Bitcoin and they understand the value that it brings, it will help massively into getting the right policies in place. And you mentioned that you're thinking about having money on chain or some education around our platform. So just I want you to know that whatever you need from us in terms of support, you will definitely get it. I think, and the reason why I started collaborating with the Money on Chain platform is that I really believe that it's a wonderful tool to help people, especially in the global south. Like I mentioned before, I am from Argentina originally. So I see a lot of need for people to have something like a Bitcoin backed stablecoin. And I think that tool not only helps people, but also it helps Bitcoin adoption as well, because it requires people to lock Bitcoin away and it starts to create a Bitcoin backed economy, which is the thing that I'm most excited about. So yeah, whatever you need help with, just let us know and we'll give you all the support that you need. I would also ask you to send me the link to your manifesto and I would like to share that later as well. And we are approaching the last 10 minutes of our talk and I would like to touch on your future plans. I think you're running for another position in office. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. As far as God gives life, as far as I'm still alive, I plan to go back to the polls in the next election. So I will still be running for the same position. But I think yeah, I think it's also worth to mention to note that was my first trial in anything elections, politics in sense. So I was more of a newbie to the political sphere. And I did very good, came out ahead. And I think I had over 1,000 votes. Yeah, 1,132 votes. So yeah, that was an eye opener. Definitely, I will be contesting in the next elections, whatever the case may be. Now, it's interesting to note that in Nigeria, the elections that a lot of people, I think we can relate that to Argentina, elections that a lot of people feel like they are so easy, you just walk in, cast your vote and all of that. It's a whole different ball game when it comes to the global south, especially countries like Nigeria and all of that, where you could see fraud and everything you think about in a negative way play out right in front of you. And there's just nothing you can do about it. Yeah, I know anyways, we are still trying our best to educate, to sensitize and all of that. And I get constituents to know that, look, you could get it right. Look, you could actually, yeah, get it right. We could get it right. And putting the right people that have true vision for the constituency. In fact, what we have noticed in the past few years, especially for the position of the contestants for, We just had people being sent there by their, in quotes, godfathers, more like a compensation. Oh, guy, oh, my guy, you have worked loyally for me. Okay, I'm going to compensate you with the seat in the State House of Assembly. And we are up to challenge that narrative, actually. That's the narrative we're challenging. I ran elections without any popular godfather. I ran elections without having to go to, in Nigeria, we say we go to what the word again for it. We go it's more like going to bribe, going to solicit for elders and all of that to come support you. I ran election and I went straight to the people that matter, to the people that need the solutions more. And that was what I did. And definitely I will be contesting in the next election.
Wonderful, wonderful. That is good to know and good to hear that there are people like you around the world trying to push this movement forward and not being discouraged by the initial struggle. Like it is not easy. This is all new stuff. And I understand very well how in countries in the global south, the political process is so, it is, it's disheartening to watch. Like right now in my country, in Argentina, one of the top guy that's getting the most votes, it's the guy that is currently in charge of the economic policies. And Argentina has over 100% inflation. So how can a person like that be top of the polls? It's beyond me. And I think for a lot of people, it really takes, it's almost like they don't see hope in the political process. So they start to tune out. And I really like what you said, that you're focusing on vision. And I think that is what we need at this stage. Now, the world is going through a very complicated moment right now. I don't think I've ever lived in a moment where I felt as much uncertainty as I feel now. And I think that right now, if we need something, we need vision, we need hope, we need something that let us know that if we work hard towards it, we can make things better, we can make a change, and we can actually start to improve things, start to fix things. And yeah, I just think that focusing on the vision and hope and try to get people in their minds that Bitcoin is exactly that. Is it gives you a vision towards the future and it gives you hope that tomorrow is going to be better than today. So I really applaud everything that you are doing. I really want to help in any way I can. So just let me know. And if you later down the line you want to come back and do another spaces, I'll be very happy to host you again. I'll be very happy to host one with IBTC Pay. Interested a lot in what they are doing. So they are always welcome to come here and talk to us about their project. So yeah, James, I just want to thank you for all the effort that you are doing and offer all our help. And just as a closing question, we always ask our guests this same question. And I always enjoy the answers that they all give us, which is, if you were to meet Satoshi Nakamoto today, what question would you ask him?
Could I please have the keys?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. On our first spaces, I answered this question and I said the exact same thing. It's perfect. Yeah. As a follow
Oh,
up
but
question.
sorry to
Yeah.
continue, but jumping in. I've actually been very, when I got to get the grabs around Bitcoin and the whole Bitcoin ecosystem, I've always been asking myself, Satoshi, why anonymous? Because it's actually crazy. This one thing I see, if I were to be Satoshi, I don't think I'll be able to resist the temptation of coming to tell everybody, hey, look, Satoshi, with proof, not the Craig White Satoshi. Yeah, I think another question I would love to ask is why anonymous? Because we watch Satoshi, the white people and everything, even if he were not to be anonymous, I think Bitcoin will still have a very, or have the same start. I think so. But The mystery behind being anonymous is what is actually very intriguing.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think like Bitcoin by itself, just because it works the way it does, I think it wouldn't have mattered if Satoshi was anonymous or not. Again, I, like yourself, if I was Satoshi, I wouldn't be able to remain anonymous. And it is really shocking in a way that he's still anonymous and we still don't know who he is. And he still has never moved a single coin from his original wallets. That just blows my mind. And it's some of a plot from a movie. And if you would watch that movie, you would think, but that would never happen in real life. And yet here we are, and it's true. And yeah, it just blows my mind every single day. I know that a lot of people think that he might be dead, and that's why he never came out. I don't know. But yeah, it's one of those life's mysteries that it seems that we will never know the answer, but it's fun always to speculate on that. Yeah, James, thank you. This has been an amazing conversation. I've learned a lot about what's happening in Nigeria. Money on Chain works with the rootstock sidechain, the layer 2 for Bitcoin. And I am also a rootstock ambassador, and we have a lot of people from Africa. So I am always very interested in what's happening over there. And I'm always trying to have people from that region because I think it's very important for more Bitcoiners to know what is happening there. I always have the idea in my mind that in the places where the traditional systems are hurting the most, that's where Bitcoin can do the most good. So I am, I hope that everything that you're doing helps in bringing people closer to Bitcoin and start fixing all these problems. And I really think that with Bitcoin, people from Africa that could, perhaps it was very difficult for them to contribute to the global economy. I hope that now they are able to do so and we can bring all their talents, all their creativity and that into the global marketplace. And I think if we do, that's going to make everything better and everyone's lives better. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope I'll see you next week for another spaces. I think we will actually have another spaces this week. So this week we'll have two. That's exciting as well. So yeah, James, I'm just gonna give you a few minutes to say goodbye to everyone. And again, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So once again, thank you guys. I really appreciate this. And yeah, I think we'll be seeing ourselves more often. Yeah. So thank you very much, guys. I think it's actually very late here, almost midnight. I think we could all go sleep happy knowing that for me, me as in person, I can sleep happy knowing that my future is will I say safer. Yes, I think most of us will go sleep knowing that, yeah, all I have to do is my work does not get eroded by inflation. My money doesn't get eroded by inflation. My money doesn't lose value. I could sleep with some kind of peace of mind now. Yeah, thank you very much, guys, host. You've been an amazing host, and thank you so much. Yeah, I look forward to getting to be on the space again with you guys.
Definitely, we'll be very happy to host you and let's stay in touch and we will provide any support that you need. So everyone, thank you. Have a good night or a good day, depending where you are in the world. James is about to go to sleep. I'm only starting my day here. So have a good day wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next spaces.